Who spoke this in?
Peace. The tech. Always love world. What's going on? It's King for all time. Sutan, hey. Coming right here out of Atlanta, Georgia. Politicking with my kinfolks, my business comrades, my family members in them. You already know, man. Royal Family Studio. Crazy works with Chris. People of creation. You gotta love it. Tonight we just discussed some little topics, man. Out here drinking it up. We gonna fuck the label. Blurt it out later. But politicking with my kinfolk, man. It's good, T. What's up, family? Ain't no thing. So, we were having a deep discussion about basically. It started off with us talking about, you know what I mean, the true root of the ending of slavery, right?
Yeah.
And I pointed out the fact that I felt like, or my research was pulling towards economic reasoning. You know what I mean? Slavery ending in
Economic.
Purely economic, basically. I don't think that there was a moral factor. I know we talk about America, especially now in the new standings of morality and feelings and, you know, this utopianism and copic love. I like the gods and the mindset and what it means. But if I had to be real, we live in a time, man, where people are masking a lot of their true intentions. You see that in comedy and the censoring. We see that online with people bullying people and going ham. Racism isn't dead. Bullying isn't dead. And people aren't to some amazing moral standards. In America, people are just, honestly, if you want my opinion, too scared to say it in their face, but they're quick to do it online. Tweet hands, you know what I mean? So we living in that type of world. How that relates to slavery, you know what I'm saying? America's always been in the mindset of, you know, dog eat dog, rip them up. Shark in the water, you know what I mean? Smelling blood, even if you sinking and swimming. If you bleeding a little bit, something is trying to eat you. Whether it be you trying to pay your house note, you chasing the bills for the lights and water on, you know what I mean? Paying child support for some brothers out there. If you met a woman that you shouldn't have, you know what I mean? Looking for child support for some of these good sisters that met a brother that you should have never messed with. Just depends. So it plays on the mindset. Do I think that exists, that element of people, and that it still exists from then to now? Yes, right? Check. In the last 20 seconds, right? At the end of slavery, you had a period where instead of quote-unquote white or middle-class American citizens, right, being able to gain economic wealth for their families and whatnot, you know, through jobs, through growing business wealth, different things like that, they actually had to compete against people who owned slaves, right, who ran industrial industries or areas, and who did not need to hire these whites, right, these free blacks, right, Arabs, anybody, any other race that was, you know, politicking and moving in these Americas. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, you know, as freeing as we think of it. I know we as blacks think of all white people hated us. And yeah, the mindset was they was okay. You know what I mean? Morally. And this is kind of diving into my point. They were okay morally with slavery.
Dang, I don't even know where to take you at. Cause it's kind of crazy. Cause I don't see where right now in the country that you can actually see that it's just so wrong and everything's just going bad and stuff like that. Like people don't have that moral instinct in their heart to do the right thing. That's why we're not chopping each other's heads off now. I mean, there are good people.
I mean, aren't we?
But,
sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to interrupt. You got it.
But economically wise, the cotton gin was invented.
Right.
That was one of the things that was going to end slavery, that ended slavery. There was no reason to actually hire all those people.
Cotton gin ended slavery?
It was one of the things that helped. Because what the slaves picked.
They picked cotton.
What was the major industry in slavery? Was cotton.
Right, but I mean, it was kind of slow for
right after slavery came the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Like there was a change happening in the world. What started the Civil War was the Confederate States trying to secede from the Union. Once they did that, it pretty much hit the fan. That's just like the talk that California has been doing for the last few months, talking about seceding from the United States. You can't do that because you're going to mess up a lot of stuff for the entire country, economically wise. That was the economic effect that really started the Civil War. It's like, yo, we get some money from y'all, and y'all can't do that because we're trying to compete with other countries.
Right.
Other than that, I can't touch on all the points because I can't even remember. Dang.
I talked about the fact that I felt like morality now, if you look online, you look at social media, you look at people even day-to-day in public face-to-face interaction, that you can see that morality is not really the strong point still of the mindset of America. And I gave an example of different times in the past, and I can give more, where I don't think morality has ever been a real mindset or focus of the American people.
It was.
I think...
But that's because the family institution broke down. Like, once you break down the family, that's what you taught. Man and a woman make a child, and they raise that child the right way and the way they need to go. Because, honestly, this country was founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs. No matter what anybody believes, the things that we don't do is written in the Ten Commandments. We know not to steal from people. We know not to kill people. We know not to rob nobody and go, we know not to do certain things because we are instilled with these principles. These principles are written down in the Ten Commandments and also in the Bible and also in the Constitution. We was doing better as a people before they split up the family. That's what it did. Like, the Civil Rights Movement brought Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson brought a couple of papers, and it said, hey, if you females want welfare, we'll give it to you, and we'll give you government money and government-funded things, and only thing you have to do is kick the man out. But the man is a stronghold of the family. And especially like right now, we're downgrading the man to a servant. Honestly, there's nothing positive about a man on television, on the internet, or anything like that. Like, if he's a man, he has to succumb to a female. Like, I see a lot of stuff in our community right now.
To a female.
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff, and he has like either that or he has to worship a female.
Wow.
Like, I see a lot of stuff in our community right now where people do this goddess worship and this woman worship, and that's cool if you believe that's the right way. But then you're taking a back seat to the woman, and then you feel great in that back seat. But the thing is, it's kind of hard to be a protector in the back seat.
Okay.
Like, we set the role. Like, even in slavery, we did better. We were married in slavery. We had a higher marriage rate in slavery. We kept.
But who married that stuff?
Did.
Was it white preachers or black preachers?
You know the story of slavery. You know people jump brooms and stuff. You know people used to get married on the cut and stuff like that.
But I'm asking, was it white preachers or black preachers?
It was more than likely black preachers.
During slavery?
During slavery. The people who would be preachers are the people that's teaching the word of God to the people.
Even like the beginning of slavery, like 1500s, 1600s. Like, you're talking about like black people.
If black people are getting married, they're getting married within that community. How many black people that you know get married and they go to a white priest to get married?
I know that during slavery, people were more so coupled together for breeding purposes for a large period of time.
I'm not going to have to marry anybody if I'm just going to breed them.
Until the end of slavery, during the last 100 years of slavery, right before the Emancipation was signed, and within the next 60 to 80 years of people finally leaving these plantations, I know that marriage became a big deal as Christianity became a big deal for blacks. But I know originally in slavery, people were coupled together again in breeding farms when slavery was first introduced. And so most of the inbreeding practices, if it was on a private farm, someone just bought 4, 5, 6 slaves, they were breeding them together. And
you believe,
you know what I mean?
You believe that the slave owner got his slaves together and performed a marriage ceremony within his slaves?
I do not believe that in the beginning of slavery that any
you believe that a slave owner would do that?
In a time where they saw black people as less than human until they needed to see them as human. 3/5.
You believe that they were married,
and then finally, maybe giving them full quarter.
We can cycle back to that.
I don't believe that in the beginning of slavery that anyone was getting married, or any ceremonial, joyous occasions were happening. I do believe that people were put together through breeding purposes, right? Towards the end of slavery, we do show signs of them moving into, again, a sharecrop style system, right? Where people were in lodges that were a little bit more, accommodating, quote unquote. People were able to partner and pair together in more of a natural form and not being so much bred like dogs and animals.
Why? I'm sorry, because you're conflating.
So later, but Christianity was also added to the slaves. Can I ask you a question?
No, wait.
Okay.
Because you're running. You're conflating what the slave owner did as a breeding, as to marriage. You believe that the slave owner, they performed the marriage ceremony with the Christian Bible, and then forced the slaves to have sex with each other, even if it could have been their mother or their sister?
No, I do not believe that the slave owner in the beginning of slavery, if we talk about the 14 or 1500s, actually married anyone. We know that the King James Version itself of the Bible was translated, right? And scribe, was it not translated? I didn't say messed up or anything like that. I'm gonna say translated.
Can I ask the question? How this relates to the state of race relations?
The moderator, Crazy Works.
Let's answer the question, please. How does that?
Because the initial question is, what is the state of race relations in the United States right now? And initially, it has to start from what America was when it was founded, which was black and white, black slaves, or even black slave owners, and white people. Black people and white people were in the United States. Now, I am saying that race relations were changing and on the verge of changing, and changed during the ending of slavery in 1865. Because it was morally right, also because economic, but it was morally right to do. Because America sees that. And I'm saying that carried on over the years, because right now people believe that people actually believe that race relations are worse now than they were in the Jim Crow era, or actually during slavery, which is blasphemous in my eyes, because the police are not turning hoses on me, and I can go in any restaurant I want to go to. So I'm trying to figure out, because I understand that economics did play a major part. Nobody is going to take that away from it. Right. Because even like I said, California is on the verge or wants to secede from the Union. It is hard for California to secede from the Union because they are a major source of economics in the United States.
Right.
A lot of billionaires live there. We need Silicon Valley.
Right. Almost like their own country.
But if they try to do that, what do you believe would be the outcome? It would have to be a war.
It would be a financial or economic war.
It would have to be a physical war, because they were already doing. Yes, because at the end of the day, that's
can I make a point though?
Can I make a point though? Yes, you can.
Every war starts with the economic war first. Either economic,
and I'm saying the same. And I'm saying the same thing about
either
the Civil
economic
War.
or a political war of persuasion or words. Every war starts, like physical war, starts with a precursor. And it's usually an economic war. Look at us now with China and their trade war. You know what I mean? And we can name Israel and Palestinians. We can name many countries that have economic war tactics with each other. Hell, the United States has economic war tactics against us. So, you know what I mean?
But the thing is that when the Civil War started, the South threatened to secede from the Union.
True.
And I don't care what happens in life. At the end of the day, if words don't get across, it boils down to physicality. Are you a bigger man than me? Do you have bigger guns than me?
Yeah. Or
and
if
especially when you're
so
close, you cannot do that because it becomes dangerous.
Okay.
So that's what sparked it right there on the economic side. But also morally, people knew it was wrong to own people. Like when you said 3/5 of a human being, 3/5 of a person in the Constitution, it wasn't saying that you as a let me explain it real quick. Because you as an actual person, you're not 3/5 of a person. They weren't saying like you was actually 3/5 of a person just to be 3/5 of a person.
Right.
They was doing it because of the representation that would happen in the government. It's like with the illegal immigrants that are coming in that Republicans are fearful of because they know that when immigrants come in that they will be in the state,
right,
and the population will go up.
Right.
So the people at the House of Representatives, they can ask for more representation at the House. And that was the same thing that they were doing in the South with the slaves. They tried to count the slaves as people, but also count them as property as well. So they said, you know what? I'm just going to say that these people are just 3/5 of a person. So if you got 15 people, guess what? They only count as 5 people.
Right.
So it's not you just being that. It's like you being actual property. You can't say that your car is property and then you're going to say that your car is going to be represented to vote with an equal vote as a man. That doesn't make sense. Even that's why black men got the right to vote before white women did.
Okay. Can I rebut? Okay. Fuck. Let me run for a minute. When it comes to count, because you use a lot of terminology and legal representation of wealth representation of physical count of stock, right? We keep talking about a count of people or a count of slaves, right? So we're still talking about an economic system of counting stock, right? When it comes to that principle, when it comes to that system, we can see the direct examples that correlate to what we have on the stock market in today's economic system of stocks and bondage, you know what I mean? And so the bondage is more so the debt or the reason, the push, right? And most debts that are accumulated or tied to that wordplay have that same reasoning, whereas stock debt or stock ownership, you know what I mean? Stock quantity unity is the unit, you know what I mean? Which directly correlates again from people's stock and livestock to, you know what I mean, more of an economic system and us as a stock, but I won't get into that. So you talked about counts. We look at the word county, we look at the word country or country is what taught to say it, wordplay. It all deals with a count. Now what does it count? We grew up to the story of Count Dracula, right? You've heard of Count Dracula.
Yes, I have.
Where did Count Dracula live? Did he live in a shoebox? Did he live in a tin can? I got it. The nigga was under a bridge scaring little kids with a balloon. No, he was in a giant castle. People feared him, but notice that everyone that feared him looked like peasants and was running in little sheds and shacks and huts while he was revered on his big-ass castle. This nigga was a Count Dracula. What is a count? A count is the actual position, right? If you are a count, by definition, you are someone that is in actual responsibility of a region of a count of people, right? An example would be in early America. Now, use an early example. People were actually governed and directed by counts. Counts got their rulership or their direction from those that were above them, but a count ruled each area. That's why we have counties. The whole country is a collection of counties, which makes the country, right? I know it's deep. So, with that being said, I'll sum it up real quick. When it comes to the fact that America is big on unit count, on stock, right? And a wealth, right, or asset that's accumulated to that. We as slaves at that time were an amazing asset when it came to wealth building. we were able to generate wealth for, a slave owner or quote unquote master for a life term if he didn't sell us, kill us, or we ran off or died. You know what I mean? For a life term. And then we made generations that had alternate lifetimes until it ended, of course. But did it end? Was our original statement and kind of how we went into it. And I'll surmise it as this and stop. If you look at the time that slavery ended, right? The 60 to 80 years from 1865 to the early, damn near mid-1900s, where blacks were finally leaving these plantations, these areas. Most of us are still, if we were in a slave plantation in Mississippi, we're still in Mississippi. If we were, for my family, in a slave plantation in Alabama, we're still in Alabama. We're in the same town, you know what I mean? And both sides. My other side was in a slave plantation in Eufaula, Alabama, and the other side was in a slave plantation in Hazelhurst, Georgia, right? I'll tell you a quick story about my grandmother, my great-grandmother. She was a nanny and a caretaker for one of the wealthiest white families in a place called Hazelhurst, Georgia, right? Her mother was the original caretaker, and once she was a little older or whatnot, she passed that duty on, But long story short, because my family was under that guise, my uncle at the time had an issue with the ice cream parlor. And long story short, they called that parlor and make him, as a black boy, be able to go to the front counter and get ice cream, which, as we know, during that time, there were still laws that permitted blacks from being able to go to a front counter or front entrances or use certain water fountains or bathrooms, you know what I mean? And he was still able to push white kids out of the way and get his ice cream, you know what I mean? After being denied and then a phone call being made, you know what I mean? Tied to families, but the family that they were tied to was actually the family or, around line that, kind of dealt with a lot of our slave or ownership, of years past, you know what I mean? And so it's a showing of a connection, you know what I mean? And in an example, white people kind of did the right thing or whatever, but it's still an ownership. It's still a mindset of people not really leaving their regions or their areas. So it's deep. I think that when it comes to where we live as black people, even now, we look at Atlanta being gentrified and moved around. That's all dealing with counts. You know what I mean? Us being lodged by zip code for counts. So you said that, and that was a pivotal word, counts. Like, it made me think about a lot, you know what I mean? But that deals directly with the fact that we're still, quote-unquote, slaves, or slaves to an economic system. And why slavery had to end for this mental slave system to proliferate. Well, and be what it is.
But morally, that's another reason why they did it.
Okay.
Because it just was the right thing to do. Because that's why it's been such a change over the years and years. Like, it wasn't just going to be an overnight thing. And especially when you think about it, it's like slaves were majority of the population in many states, or they were a large part of the population in many states. And they did not have a history of the United States, and they did not have a history of Africa. So they were pretty much a lost people with nothing. Like, they was ignorant of what was going on. Like, a large majority was ignorant. It's like if you just released, it's like if you released a whole lot of prisoners from prison at the same time, all at the same time, and just left them out on the street. Okay. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think they'll be able to integrate with society quick enough? And especially when you think about it, what if all these prisoners were painted blue so people would know that they were prisoners? So wouldn't you think that would probably hinder race relations a little bit?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
I do not think that they would properly, equally, or efficiently, especially in a matter of time or manner,
they wouldn't be able to
equate in society and be even.
Exactly.
No, not at all.
That would be the same thing. That would be the same thing as releasing every slave at the same time in the
without any proper training,
exactly.
Without any economic funding, and without any instruments of them building wealth for normal work.
Laws had to get passed in order to ease the way into it, and that's another reason why the Civil War broke out.
Okay.
It was literally a more good. Like, think about it. We literally just had a black president. He left office in 2016. So
We did have a multiracial
and
president.
people voted for him twice. Like, people always say that it's, like, racist white people voted for Trump.
Right.
The same white people that voted for Trump were the same white people that voted for
Right. It was
Obama.
economic reasoning in both purposes,
but still, though, it was...
And technically, Trump did not win the populace as much as he won the electoral college. We're still saying he won a poll or a polling, but
the same people that voted for Trump are the same people that voted for Obama. So did they change into races over the years? It's like the same
economic
thing.
support of people. What are we talking about?
We throw around the word racist so vigorously. It's crazy, and we need to slow down on it. And that's the thing.
Well, like, so I didn't say racism as much as I said that there is a system of white supremacy, or white comfort as I call it, that does govern not just America, but really the world. I even see Asians and Indian cultures that abide and submit to this quote-unquote white supremacy. So
they're not doing a good job here, because we have colored statesmen, we have brown billionaires. They are doing a piss poor job in America.
That's fine. One or two sliding through is different from every black family that you see, or on average, or middle. Even if it was 50%, they'd have an uproar and they'd change the system. We know that because there were times, right? We look at the end of slavery, and we look at what happened, boom, Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? 1920. What happened? They bombed a whole city of black people moving towards economic wealth. We call that Black Wall Street. Why? Not because they were just rich blacks,
but that wasn't
because they had it. Because they had because they had a system of wealth. You can look at Atlanta, you can look at New York, you can look at many different cities where blacks were able to create a system of wealth, a system of order. Every community, everything was popping and moving, and they were independent. They did not need. And what happened? They got bombed. Facts. They got bombed.
That one city out of all those cities that you named, why didn't they bomb all those other cities?
What you mean, why didn't they bomb all those other cities?
If black people getting money out of all those other cities, and this is supposed to be a racist
They
society,
did bomb all those other cities. So, in New York, check. If you go to New York and you go to Central Park, you're going to walk through that mug and you're going to see relics of buildings. You're going to see pathways that look like city streets. And like it's deep, but you're walking through a graveyard. So that is one example of a town that was destroyed, rummaged, and completely removed. It is now green space that they destroyed for purpose. No other purpose other than to stop economic wealth for blacks, because that was a full melanated community. You also have Tulsa, Oklahoma, as we named before. Of course, they bombed that, after pillars in it, you know what I mean, for the sole purpose of stopping economic growth in the black community. There's a story tied to it. But overall, all these things happen around the same time. And we know that it's directly linked with the same COINTELPRO programs, hip-hop police, and everything that still has a grip on the black community, quote-unquote. We can't gain economic wealth as a mass of people. Me and him can't click together and make a program to save the lives of millions upon millions of blacks in this country or other countries without... I'm not saying it can't be done, but without contention. There's going to be a quote-unquote devil, a boogeyman, an enemy, an adversary to what we put out there, what we push. It's real.
Well, thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you for hosting me, brother. Warrior Family Studios. This man is a genius. Call myself a genius.
You do pretty well, too.
It's a wonderful thing, man. Much more coming. Look out for us, man. Peace and love.